And we're live. Welcome to ComX Recent Reads. I'm your host, Ed Keasley. I'm filling in for Sis this week. Normally I just press the buttons on this show, but today I'm going to be the host. And we've got two awesome guests. We might have another one coming in a bit later. But first off, we've got Sean Craig. G'day. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Hello. Evening, trendsetters.
And you tell us what book you've got to talk about today?
Well, I've got some interesting indie American books here. Like I've got a little set going. It's a new series. It's called Encrypted by Alternate Press. And I've actually got the first 4 issues, and I'll be talking through them tonight.
Excellent. And now we've got Shannon Browning as well joining us. Shannon, what awesome book have you got to talk about?
I've got a personal favorite of mine. It's called My Friend Dharma.
Yes.
And it is like the true story of a guy who went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer.
I read that at the library one time when I had some spare time to kill, so and looked through the comic books at the library, and I read that one. And my book that I'll be doing today is Billy Bones and the Apocalypse with Bob the Dog by Dana King. So
just my camera, so the logo isn't on half my face.
There you go. That's better. All right. Let's start off with Sean and let's have a look at this King Cryptid comic book. That looks really interesting.
Well, this is done by Alternate Comics. Like the guy that does it is the creator is Peter Simeti, who actually runs Alternate Comics. And this is his first ongoing series. Of course, like he's the writer, but he's got like each issue he'll be having a different artist, so which makes things more interesting actually, like their kind of take. Like just go through this one up here, how it's got that that standard comic style.
That looks cool. Yeah,
and the next issue here is like this one's actually all done in black and white.
Oh wow.
So it looks pretty striking too, as well, actually. And then the third one is that this one's actually done cartoony as well. You can see.
Yeah.
And then this one's definitely got the that 90s kind of comic look. As a matter of fact, I'll just this is probably my favorite page out of the whole thing. This whole 2-page spread here.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. So pretty much like King Cryptid, it's pretty much like a superhero story. Like the guy's obviously a fan of Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've got that kind of vibe because he's kind of a mutant, or like a creature. So he's got the crown, but it's actually his skull. And then what you think he's wearing robes, that's his actual wings. And especially in the 4th issue, he's actually hanging upside down, like how he sleeps like a bat. So, yeah, it's pretty much each issue is self-contained, and just faces his foes or something. But then, like he works out problems kind of peacefully, or like he goes through the least how do I put it? Least violent possible. Like he will like fight back when there's this last thing necessary, but he has that. Yeah. He definitely has that no kill code as well. And the book is kind of like he is trying to aim it for boys to read as well. Like this is something I can probably give to like tween and teen kids who want to get into like comics, and especially like it's a new one too. So it's like something different. It's got that similar kind of vein to the classic 80s, early 90s, like Marvel and DC, I would kind of say. But
Excellent.
yeah, it's a
That
pretty
cover.
it's a fun.
Sorry.
It's just a fun read. Like it's not going to like change the world or anything like that. But it's just like it's back to the classic good versus evil, like superhero kind of thing, going that dark superhero.
Sweet. So that cover, the one that's showing, that looks a bit like Kelly Jones artwork on there.
That's actually done by Christian Rossi.
Whoop,
And,
that's the
like I never heard these guys either, but yeah, like this one was done by Nick Hunter. Like these obviously like American independent guys. And
that's cool. The cover's black and white too for the black and white issue.
and it's actually got they've both of them got different colors. I mean, like it's got split colors as well. So like this one's done by Alex Jovic. I think he's done another series for Alternative Press as well, and this one's by Keir Covington.
Cool. That the cartoony one looks a bit like Sam Keith.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's a very cartoony kind of story, that one actually. And that one actually does say to be continued, but it's not like till issue 8 when that story actually continues on.
Oh yeah, because you were saying that he does it in chunks.
Yeah.
Like he really, I've never heard it. Explain that.
When he launched it, like you got issue 1 to 4 on the spot. So like the next lot, which is probably supposed to be coming out even next month or the month after, but the last I saw, like most of the books are like 85 to 90% complete, so they're almost done. So I'm just waiting till like they're available on the website, and I'll just buy them. And just another note, like the books are actually pretty cheap. Like they're just like $1.99 US, which is where you got $4 Australian. Because they're the only comic company that I've seen in this day and age. They actually print on newsprint.
They're kicking it old school.
Yeah, it's total old school.
No, that's
I
really
just
cool.
brought some of the artwork up here, and I'm looking at one of the pages, and yeah, it's got a very, very 90s feel, especially because the color is really like it's two-tone. It's not overdone like you see in a lot of comics nowadays. Like everybody's gotten a copy of Photoshop for Christmas and went crazy. But this
all that ridiculous lighting and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
This
is
one just keeps it like simple and standard, and it's just like it's one of those ones where the story that matters, and it's actually like a pretty decent superhero story.
And what is he supposed to be, like a gorilla or something, or is he just a combination of different creatures?
Well, that's the thing. They haven't actually said, but he does mention something about being in a lab for a while. That's one of his memories.
Yeah.
And then he deals with these other creatures, like in the first issue, like he came from the lab too, and he goes, yeah, I think I'm from the lab as well. Like you don't know his origin just yet. It's just pretty early, but like that's another thing. Like each issue, like you get to find a little bit more about King Cryptid himself. Especially that last issue, his real name's actually Cronin, but that all he just says that, and he's supposed to be protecting his area and all that, and just keeping the peace. So he actually does fight like a alien from centuries ago as well in the second issue. Like he saves the kids in the third one. The fourth one, he's fighting something from the bog, from a swamp.
Yeah.
But what I meant to say was like like each issue, like you find a little bit more about him, but then like there's some other questions as well that makes you like want to read more to find out those answers. Like it keeps you glued to find out more about this character and what's going to be next in the next future issues.
So that's a classic sequential serialized comic book format.
Oh yeah.
With the self-contained stories and then the B and C plots scattered
Yeah.
through, and then they became
Like I
A
said,
plots
it's
as it
just
goes
like
along.
those old, like how the comics were back in the 80s and the early 90s. Like, you know, just like self-contained stories. They'll probably like have a issue 1 and 2 to be continued, but it's not like just some massive block or something, and you've got to grab like every issue and go to these other, you know, other titles out there to get the whole story. It's just like that's it. You don't have to worry about any other book.
It's also good from a creator point of view that you never end without ending the story. Like like my comic series, it's like 3 issues into a 6-issue run, and the last issue was like 15 years ago. So
it's a tale as old as time with the independent comics. You have to make it all yourself.
Yeah.
Sounds good. It sounds like an interesting tale.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, I actually have been following alternate comics for a bit, and there hasn't really been anything that's been released from them I didn't like, especially like surprisingly how cheap the comics are. So when you go on the comics, their website, like you can buy a bit of a bulk of them, and if there's some you don't like, it's just like, oh, you know, I only brought it for like $3 or $4. Like, you know, you don't feel too good because something like you brought for $10 and it turns out that you hate it, and it's just like, friggin', I wasted that much money for this one book.
Yeah. I like it. I'm gonna have to like check out their website.
Yeah, they actually also do like Indiegogo campaigns as well. Like they've wrapped one up recently as well. So, and it's good to go on that. So the next one will be interesting to see what they're going to be releasing next.
Sweet.
Yeah. So they do. Like, do they just sort of like throw stuff at the wall to see what will stick a little bit? Like, oh, we'll do this one character or that one character and see if it sells well.
They are pretty much like a creator and stuff. So like, you know, like Peter Simeti, like he has to go through the books and just like say like, yeah, I'll print this one. And this one's like, no, sorry, come back later. Like this needs to be improved. You know, he pretty much plays a pretty tough editor. But you know, he kind of has to. He doesn't want to be releasing, you know, he has that quality over quantity.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Well, this day and age, I mean, that's the way to work it. You can't really sort of do a scattergun effect and just throw as much out there and see what does well. Like, you know, old school Marvel or something like that. You know, it's so specific nowadays that like unless you are putting something quality out there, it's going to get lost in the crowd.
Yeah. Well, I probably could say like Marvel and DC back in its time kind of got away with it. Even some stuff that was still average, they still did pretty decently. But you know, like because they had the main titles, and I guess back then like Marvel and DC were probably too big to fail back at that time until what 96, 97 when Marvel declared bankruptcy.
It's kind of amazing when you see Marvel now, like being an old school comic person, like I got into comics in the early 90s, or hardcore in the early 90s, and all the trouble that Marvel had, and they were bankrupt and they couldn't sell, and you know they were just, you know, everything was an X-Men title and that sort of thing. And, you know, they were one step away from disappearing completely. I think DC even was considering buying them up. And then, you know, what they are now, like they're one of the biggest brands on the planet. It's just like, if you think you're doing badly, just, you know, keep going because you never know how it'll turn around.
They sold Spider-Man and the X-Men movie rights, and that's what kept them afloat.
Actually, the funniest part about that is like they were selling like rights to anything and everything they could. And the whole reason that the original, like the Marvel series of films were like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, so on and so forth, was that they couldn't sell them. Like those titles was so poor and sold so badly that no one was interested in those characters in any way, shape, or form.
If you told anyone in the 90s that the Avengers would be a bigger franchise than the X-Men,
they just look at you like
in 30 years, like that,
right?
no one would believe you.
Yeah.
No.
I remember, you guys probably remember this as well. Like, you'd go in the comic store and you'd see the way they were set up, and you had like the DC section, the Marvel section, and that sort of thing. And in my comic store, like the DC section, it had the Vertigo stuff at the top, on the top shelf, so the kids couldn't reach it. You'd have an entire shelf of Batman. You'd have an entire shelf of Superman, and then you pretty much had everything else. So it was like about 6 shelves: Vertigo, Batman, Superman, and then the rest of DC. But then you'd look at the Marvel shelf. There'd be one shelf of Spider-Man. There would be one shelf at the bottom of everything else. So like Captain America, Avengers, anything, all the rest of it. And the other shelves were just X-Men titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Made it a little bit intimidating to get into X-Men at the time.
So got a message from Mastodon Comics here.
Yeah.
Say hello to them. Hello, Mastodon Comics and Music.
Yeah, back when I was living in Mackay, like there was this place, Happy's. That was the comic book shop there, and yeah, it was kind of similar. Like they had the DC section and the Marvel section, and yeah, it was roughly the same. But I didn't really pay attention to it too much. But then they had the independent section, or the Dark Horse, and then some of the other titles there. I was going through them more often. I did try actually buying trying to read the X-Men and Spider-Man back at the time, but
they weren't good.
Really annoyed me most was just like, I'd read one book and it's like, you got to get this other Spider-Man title for that story and then get these other two on the next week. And it's just, I'm just like, oh man, friggin', I got to keep buying all this stuff. It was just, and this was during the Spider-Clone saga.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh God, I hated it. And it was the same as like with that X-Men with that Age of Apocalypse. I just thought this story is a mess. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I just didn't really get into them. I just gave up on those books.
Yeah.
But I was just getting I was actually reading Dark Horse books because at least you have like 3 or 4 titles that I want. Like there was one Aliens, one Predator, a Star Wars, and probably something else. But it's just like, it just came out like each title came out per week, but it's like per month. It didn't like just bombard you with all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, I have to get it, the whole story. It's just like it just let it breathe.
Yeah, during that time, like I collected both Superman and Batman during that period of time. That was 12 books a month because there was like at least 5 Superman titles. There was like more than that of Batman. There was like the spin-offs that kind of kept like the main story kept on going into the spin-off and then coming out again. So you still had to collect those ones. So, you get Robin, you get Nightwing, you get Superboy, Supergirl, Steel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I bet you were going for a heap of pocket money, man.
This is when I first started working and I'm living at home and, I'm not paying any bills or anything like that. So I remember like it was about $30 a week I was spending on comics when I first started. And when I finished, it was getting up around $70 and $80 a week every single week. And I was unemployed for a while and I just had to cancel everything because I just couldn't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
Makes for a hell of a collection in the next room that I never touch.
I got a comment here. So I've heard that quite a bit about Clone Saga. Folks not liking it. I myself love the Age of Apocalypse. I didn't mind the Age of Apocalypse so much too, but the Clone Saga, I wasn't reading Spider-Man at the time, and it's something I want to try and see if there's a trade paperback of it. I just remember it went for so long, like it went for way too long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like it went I feel like it went for 4 years, but maybe it was just like 2, but it's way too long for such a.
I'm pretty sure like I don't know. I just remember like I think it went for 3-4 years, like you said, because it just kept going, and then then it became like a different Spider-Man for a while. That
There
Ben
was
Riley.
when Ben Riley came in,
But then like much later on, like they end up changing it back to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Because obviously like the Ben Riley character like didn't hit off too well with the fans. And I just remember Wizard Magazine just bagging the shit out of it. For some reason, they still put it in the recommendation sections.
Yeah, I did collect the miniseries that ended it, but you know, I got the occasional book here and there, but it was very convoluted. I've read up on that whole thing afterwards. What happened was that they had a very definite end point that they were going to work towards. But the books originally were selling really, really well. So management said, well, extend it, keep it going, turn it out longer. And they said, no, we're ending at this point. And they said, no, keep going, keep going. So they just started throwing shit at the wall. And they got to a point where it's like, this is all too convoluted. Who is this character? Who is this Kane character? Why is this happening? Who set this up? We've already said that like there's 3 other clones of Peter running around. Yeah, they had no idea how to end it. And then like, you know, they did the whole storyline where it was revealed that Ben actually was the clone. He melted. And it was revealed that the person behind it all was Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. And that's when they brought him back. He'd been dead since like the 60s or something, when Spider-Man had killed him and when he gets stabbed by his own glider. So yeah, that's when they brought him back into the comics. Was the end of the Spider-Clone saga.
All right. Well, on that note of people getting stabbed, let's talk about Shannon's book, which is
good segue. Okay. Yes. Now this, many years ago, I found out about this guy. His name is John Backderf. He calls himself Durf Backderf. I found him through this trash, which I found in like the $1 bin at a comic book store one day, and I just thought it looked interesting. Trash tells a story of when he dropped out of college. He was living back in his parents' house. They forced him to get a job, so he got a job as a garbage man. There's 2 versions of it. There's this one. And here's our 4th guest finally.
Yep. Hey, I'm using it again.
He's not interested at all. Yeah, there's 2 versions of this. There's the published version, which is a lot shorter. There was a digital version, or I read the digital version as well, which he extended out. It's a lot thicker and goes into a lot more detail. But at the back of this, he was talking about some of his other projects that he worked on. And that's where I found out, I'll just show it there, about this book here, My Friend Dharma. Now, I tracked that down, and I've had a copy of it for a long time. I read it every now and then because it's fascinating. This guy, he went to high school and was friends with Jeffrey Dahmer. So after it came out that once Dahmer had been arrested and gone to jail and all of his crimes were admitted and stuff, he sat down and he sort of like wrote some notes and collated it a little bit just to get his head around the concept. But it wasn't until a few years later when Dahmer was killed in prison that he actually sat down and started drawing it and turning it into a story. And there were several versions of it. He started off with, I think it was just like 4 pages, a 5-page short story with some of the details. But he knew that didn't cover the story properly. And he went and interviewed some of his high school friends about the story and got their memories. He looked into like a lot of interviews that Dharma made at the time. And then, of course, there's his own recollections. And they always said like Dharma was a weird guy, but he had a nightmare of an upbringing. Like his parents fought all the time. His mother had some mental issues. He himself had some mental issues, obviously, but he used to do things like collect dead animals, and he would put their bodies in acid so the flesh would eat away so he could study the bones and stuff.
There's a heap of documentaries on that guy.
Yeah. But it is such a fascinating read. It really is, because like it's a side of true crime that you don't normally get to see. Like I'm a big true crime fan. I watch the documentaries and I started reading the books until I made the mistake of reading the book about Snowtown. Got a certain way into that book, read about some of the stuff that this guy did as a kid and just like, nope, don't want to read anymore.
I don't know really about the guy Richard Kilklinsky then, one of the most notorious men in the world.
The Iceman.
Yeah, the Iceman, like he's responsible for over 300 assassinations.
So he says.
And apparently he was actually responsible for offing Jimmy Hoffa, the union boss in America.
Oh yeah, guy that went missing.
Yeah.
That was that's what The Irishman was about. The movie with Robert De Niro with his CG face. Actually, speaking of movies, they made a movie out of My Friend Dharma. I think it came out around 2016, 2017, around that time. It's not bad, but for some reason, it works a lot better in the comic. Like this gentleman, he is a cartoonist.
It's a very distinct art style. That's building the world of how weird it was with that weird kid.
Yeah, exactly.
He went to school with.
Him doing all this weird
what
stuff.
They do when it comes to adaptation of movies, they usually leave certain little parts out here and there, or they change it.
It wasn't so much that they were pretty true to the story, but just the tone was wrong for some reason. I can't put my finger on what about the film didn't really work. I finally got a chance to watch it. I think it was on YouTube when I finally could track it down. Because it disappeared. Like it did the whole Sundance thing and everybody's raving about this performance, and then it just sort of vanished. But yeah, his sort of simplistic cartoony sort of style for the story helps tell the story a lot better.
It's because it's his story. It's like you'd tell the story better in your own words.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's using his cartooning as his words. That's why it translates better off the page than other people adapting it to a different medium. Yeah,
exactly. But it's a really, really fascinating read. If you can track down a copy somewhere, I highly recommend it. Who was a creative team on that book? Okay. It was written and drawn by an individual called, let me just look up, his name is, I think, John Backderf. Backderf is spelled Backderf. But the name on the cover of the book, I'm just bringing that up. Sorry, excuse me. God damn it. Apologies. Yeah, he calls himself Derf Backderf, a graphic novel by Derf Backderf. So that must be like a nickname or something that he's just learned to refer to himself. I think it was individually published. I think he did it himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I apologize. I don't actually have the publisher for that. This one was slave labor graphics, but I don't know what. No, I don't have those details. I apologize. But yeah, great book. Really great book.
Mm.
You know, fascinating insight into like kind of a notorious figure.
Also really highlights how bad the kind of school system was back in the 70s, where the kids just getting wasted drunk before going to class, and the teachers just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
like back then,
his
like
whole story was just crying for help.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah,
time.
very much so. I think the author says at one point, like, he said it was kind of terrifying because all of these skills that he learnt to cope in high school, things like disappearing, not being noticed in crowds, like being charming, talking his way into things or out of things and stuff like that, which allowed him to get up to all these weird shenanigans while they're in high school with him. Those are the exact tricks and traits that he developed to become like the really efficient serial killer that he became. So Abram Comic Arts published My Friend Dharma. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
So Adam also says he's
got this book on my nightstand right now.
now.
Read it with the lights on, my friend.
Yes.
So yeah. Oh, and yeah, if you find a copy of Trashed as well, which is one of the other books done by the same guy, lot lighter, very, very funny. If you can get the extended version of it, there's a lot more great stuff. He goes into a lot more detail with some of his workmates from the garbage trucks and garbage collection. Hilarious story about a guy he lived with who just, while sitting at the pub one day, stood up suddenly, like ran out of the pub and ran down the street, and disappeared. Like he was roommates with a guy. He went home one night and like all of this guy's stuff was gone, which was most of the furniture and that sort of thing. And they never saw him again. He just completely disappeared.
Oh, got another comment from Adam.
Trashed is great. I read that recently. Yeah. It's interesting as well because in the extended edition, he goes into kind of the history of garbage collection. Like it's interspersed throughout these recollection stories of his. That stuff's fascinating. Like it's something that you don't ever think about. But, you know, there is a long and kind of sordid history when it comes to garbage collection. You know, a lot of corruption, a lot of shady practices, a lot of just nasty shit that they've done just trying to get rid of people's garbage.
But yeah, there's a Garbo
living my dream.
But yeah, it's an essential service basically in modern society. So someone's got to do it. So someone's gonna charge a lot of money for it. Yeah.
Well, like back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even going into the Jimmy Hoffa stuff, a lot of gangsters and the mob controlled garbage.
That's The Sopranos.
Yeah, exactly. Because like that's like there was a lot of money in it. Like
that kind of
you collect the garbage, you can kind of charge what you want because if they didn't pay you, you just stopped collecting the garbage. And that's what happened in New York in the 70s. There was a massive garbage strike and garbage was just piling up on the city streets and making the entire city disgusting. But yeah, there was a union dispute and that went on for a long, long time. And this is back when New York was one of the most terrifying places on earth. You know, this is the New York that like you can make Escape from New York about, not the, you know, pristine, clean version that it is now. Not that it's that pristine or clean. It's kind of disgusting.
No, I hear it still smells like pee, but New York when it was fun.
I was in New York back in '99, and I remember like hitting the button to cross the road, and I leant on the light pole. I just put my hand on the light pole, and immediately picked it back off again because it was just nasty to touch. I'd never experienced a city like that in my life. I remember when the movie The Day After Tomorrow, the one where the new ice age comes up and everything freezes. There's a scene in that where a giant tidal wave floods through New York, and I always joke about that's the best thing that could happen because finally the place will get a wash.
Well, on that note, shall I talk about Billy Bones and the Apocalypse with Bob the Dog?
Please do.
Yeah.
By Dana King. All right, so this is a story about a punk rock zombie and his dog Bob. It's by Dana King. That's there. And just like the first thing to start off with is having the record as the mohawk for the punk rock zombie character.
Oh, nice.
It's just a great design feature. Like you could see it there with the front on view that cracked into his head.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like you can see he's taking it out so he could throw it for Bob the dog to catch. And I'm gonna keep showing everything. The bad punk rock zombies is totally Return of the Living Dead, which was my zombie movie in the 80s. Like that was the one I was allowed to get from the video shop. So that's one I've seen the most, and the brains.
Send more cops.
Yeah. And when they release the canister in the place with all the medical animals, and there's the little doggies running on its side, but there's only half of it.
Yeah, that's a wild film.
There's another really great bit. You see where there's a thing where the zombies are getting closer, and then the closer falls off the edge of the balloon. It's like really fun, like experimental formal stuff like that. It's really good. And then there was this bit, right? It says it says still swinging his broken guitar, Billy crushed. The skull of it was once maybe a nice stripper. Just saying. As I was reading that, I was like, "Oh, Dana, you don't do that. You show, you don't tell." And then I wasn't going to do that as a review, but then, spoiler alert.
Oh, wow.
There's a
full screen there, mate.
There's a 3-page spread of the.
Oh, wow.
And it just, when I was reading it, just felt like I was like, "Oh, Dana, you don't do that." She's like, "Oh, yeah, okay. Turn the page, buddy." And that's what really sold me on it. But it's just so good. Like it's a really like informal narration style. It's like just someone's telling you the story, and then Billy is based on. She said 2 of her favorite guitarists, but it's a really good likeness of Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. So I'm guessing is why the guy's called Billy as well.
That 3-page thread actually did look pretty nice.
Mm.
And then look at those colors.
That's great. And
then it says to make sure and take the time to appreciate this awesome scene. So when the cartoonist is telling you, it's like, look at what I drew. Just look at it.
This took me hours, damn it. Look at it.
Yeah. It's great attitude. I think it matches the punk rock aesthetic of the bad guys. They look really cool. And yeah, I want to get number 2. I believe there's another issue. That's Billy Bones of the Apocalypse by Dana King. It was really fun.
When did that come out?
I think that's been out for a while. I don't know if there's a date.
I think it came out
Right.
last year, didn't it? Or
No, it doesn't say. So I couldn't answer that one properly. We've got some. The puppy is adorable.
Very
Rather not
reputable.
visits. I think that's Police's. What's this one say it? Ew.
yeah.
Billy and
Yeah.
Mandy vibes, a little bit of Troma films. Yeah, it does have that. Does have a lot of like
It's got
Troma
a punk
vibes.
rock Billy and Mandy sort of feel to it. Yeah.
Mm.
It's kind of like a Cartoon Network show, but very more free formed, almost like a graffiti sort of look to it.
Mm. Lots of fun. It's a good book.
Oh, great.
All right, so we're at the halfway point. I'm going to play an ad
Mhm.
that goes. It only goes for 30 seconds, but I've got to run to the toilet. So when the ad stops, do you guys hold down the fort till I get back? Okay.
All right.
Will do.
Are you feeling a little down? Tired of reading the same old books again and again? Looking for something different? Why not head over to the ComX shop now and pick yourself up some freshly inked inspiration?
And we're back. Ed will be returning very slowly when he has answered his call of nature. Sean, so
Yeah.
I haven't met you before, mate. I don't think I've ever spoken to you. So what's your origin story a little bit? What do you do?
I'm just an amateur comic or manga artist myself, but I will pretty much say there was a time, probably when I first started working on my own comics, so to speak. I was actually living with Ryan Vella at the time.
Oh, wow.
We actually used to share a unit with each other for a while, and I did play in his old band Kilray for a while as well. So yeah, I'm actually a drummer as well. Then just after a while, like this was back in the time, like when Mackay was just a sleepy, dull sugarcane town.
Yeah.
You know, like if you weren't raising a young family or like into like the local sports, it's the most boringest town you would have lived in. And it's just like I ended up actually moving to one of the mining towns for a while, just because like that was the only place I was able to get a job.
Yeah.
Then after that, just like got to move to Brisbane, and you know I would probably say like Brisbane's now probably my home at the moment, and that's when I started like properly like trying to work on my own comics. Just like I was just starting with a crummy zine kind of stuff for a while, and I just learned as I went along, and yeah, so like the latest thing I got is this one, and I'm working on the second one right now.
What's the name of that one, mate?
Blade Whip.
Well, Blade Whip.
So that's the the manga inspired one because it actually does go from right to left. But
Oh, you did that with
the short
other
story
book.
really was with this one was I told this story probably a couple of times before, but there was this manga anthology that was around about 2-3 years ago, like G'day Punch from Melbourne, and they asked me through Instagram, just like, oh, please do a story for us. And I just said, yeah, okay, this was after I finished Nyaku. I was going to do this other project. And I'm just like, yeah, I might as well just do this one off. And they also had, like, if you get chosen, like, the winner, like, you get $100, and then they'll probably ask you, like, oh, can you do some more stories, like, become a bit of a regular? I'm kind of like, oh crap, what if I do win this one? I'm gonna have to I just had to write down these notes and that, like to extend it. But then halfway through, like all of a sudden they just disappeared off the net. Like I couldn't, the email was invalid, like all their social media and their websites just disappeared. I just don't know what happened there. So, and I was actually gonna like throw it in the bin, but Shane, Quick Nick, and Ryan pretty much just said, "Don't throw it away, you idiot." Well, you know, just like, no, you friggin', it looks great. You know, I showed them the work, and it's just like, no, friggin', keep going with it. It looks great. Just like, just finish it off and see how it goes. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, yeah, you have to thank Shane, Nick, and Brian for convincing me to not throw it in the trash.
It's probably amazing how many creative products only exist because someone had a good enough friend who would smack you in the back of the head and say, "Don't be a dickhead."
Yep.
Yeah.
I heard the same thing about Stephen King's first book. I think it was Carrie. He had written like 2/3 of it, got the shits with himself, and had thrown it in the bin. And his wife found it and read it, and she came up and like gave him what for and says, "Finish the bloody book. I want to know what happens."
Yeah.
So you're in good company there.
Like, it was kind of similar, like when I was doing Zanyaku. That was actually written by someone else.
Yeah.
But I had to admit, like, there was a number of times I just went, "Why am I doing this?" And I walk away from it. Then, like a little while later, I just go back and it's like, "Nah, friggin' finish it."
Yeah.
Especially like
that was 5 issues too, wasn't it? That was a big big project.
That was probably the most frustrating comic project I ever worked on, just because before that I was just working on autobiographic stories and just like one pages, and just how I worked back then, just because like I had a story about like some place in Brisbane, and I used to go there all the time, so I knew what it looked like, so I just knock it down pretty easy. Or pretty much like a story like that happened seeing a band, and it's like I go to this gig venue so many times, I know what it looks like. I just draw it. You know, like it's stuck in my head pretty well. And just like certain places in Brisbane and probably like the band practice room where I used to go to, I used to hang around all the time. I knew what that place looked like off by heart. So when I started Senyaku, it's just like, oh yeah, this shouldn't be too hard. But then it's just like starting the whole thing. It's just like, oh, this actually is a lot harder because I didn't even do any like character drawings. I just hit the ground, or you know, just started and just went off of it, and I just ran into so many problems. As then, like after that, I started doing these character drawings, and then I'm going on the net, just like what does this place here in New York City look like, and certain buildings. Like it actually made me do research and actually like try a lot harder. And frankly, like it did make me improve a lot actually, and got me into better habits.
Especially the amount of pages too.
Yeah,
getting the reps in, just
and also pretty much like I had to watch a number of like kung fu movies and certain stuff, just like hitting pause buttons, just trying to get some spot. And it's like, yeah, that's the pose I'm wanting. Like, you know, seeing Jackie Chan doing a flying kick or something, or just like Oh, you know, just like seeing how they fight and all that, and I just have to just watch it so many times, just to like, okay, so they do this pattern and that pattern, just like, you know, just observing how they fight instead of just drawing fighting, just not knowing where the hell it's gonna go. Actually plan it properly.
No, that's excellent.
No, I'm glad you stuck with it, mate. Do you you still enjoy it? You still got a lot of enjoyment in it?
Well, I'm enjoying this project actually a lot more better now, probably because I just know what to do better. Because like I actually did do some practice sketches, you know, like character design sketches, and actually been looking up certain bits of scientific stuff, like I had to look up about armored power suits, and these things actually do exist. Like the first prototype by the military, American military, was actually made in 2005, like for the military use. So like I think the first one was done like in the 60s or 70s, but that was more for like construction use.
Yeah.
And the military use is just like, it just looks very thick, and it's comparable to like one of those Warhammer 40k kind of suits. It's just big and slow, but you know, like it's still like pretty. It's almost like a freaking tank. You're just stuffing yourself in this little tank. But now like the suits I've kind of just seen through Google and certain other little sites, like it has like gotten thinner, and they still have like certain sticks there, so it has been evolving. So pretty much like the suits that I got, like it's come to that point where it has it is just like wearing a suit, which is also like it does it improve your strength, but also is mostly bulletproof. You know, defends the most standard bullets and certain lasers.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
All
Are
right.
you working on another issue at the moment?
Sorry?
I said, are you working on another issue at the moment?
Yeah, I am. It's kind of been a bit slow just because, you know, like I've got a baby and, you know, like...
oh, they don't take a lot of your day.
Yeah. Well,
they
you
look
know,
after
I do
themselves.
work too. I do have a day job as well, a full-time job. So it is kind of like just trying to get as much time as I can, but I'm definitely like going to try to push myself a lot harder than I did on that one. Just, you know, like my work ethic, or pretty much if anyone asks me about any advice about working on comics, I just tell them, just do it. Just make your comic.
Yeah.
Just have a good look at it.
That's what I say.
You like you do your next project, see if you can outdo yourself, like improve, and just keep going. That just like see if you can do better. Like set your bar, and then try and make your bar higher and higher.
Yeah, that's all you can do. You just
like
the only person you're really in competition with is your former self. So just do the best work that you can do and screw everybody else, pretty much.
And like any physical activity, you get better at it the more you do it. So
yeah.
What about you, Ed? You still working on Radical, or you got something else you've been working on?
Yeah, I've got Radical 4 is coming out very soon. That's completely done, which I didn't draw that one. I just I wrote that one and lettered it and colored it. But George Vega is an American artist, did the line art for that one, and it looks amazing. And that's coming out soon. I'm gonna figure out how to do a Kickstarter and get that rolling. And I've also got the Final Dragon stuff, which was in the ComX Presents 1, 2, and 3. So I've collected all those 3 parts. I'm adding 6 pages onto the start, and I'm going to recolor it and re-letter it. So it'll be basically a whole new story for anyone who's got the Presents issues.
Nice.
and doing the sea mandrels from Earth. Trying to get a page of that done a week.
That's a pretty
So
good
that'll
goal.
Yeah,
How long does it take you guys to get through an issue?
takes me years, but I'm always doing 4 things at once.
Mm.
I can't concentrate on one thing at a time.
Yeah,
Sean, what about you?
myself. This one probably took about 18 months, but that was just
That's not bad.
Yeah, because I had to do everything myself. Like I had to, I don't have any assistants like the Japanese or anyone editing, or it's all DIY.
Mm.
And you've got a pretty detailed style as well.
Yeah,
So that's gonna
I
add
pretty
hours
much
to
try to
everything.
go out and make my way just to make it look as spectacular as I can.
You got to please the inner critic.
Yeah.
Oh, great. What else have you guys been reading recently? Anything?
That's the second part of the show is where
sorry, I'm jumping into that. I apologize.
It's okay. Well, we should get you on for the host, but I'll go first with my one because this is some classic Australian 90s
Oh, wow.
comic books, which is Scunge, which is by let me have a look. No, it doesn't have a yeah. He went by the name of Sora Racerhead back in the day, but it's the guys that do the Baz of the Barbarian.
Yeah, I know, Sora.
Yeah.
Mm.
So this is what he was doing in the 90s, and it's all different. I think he was writing it, and then there's all the brightest and greatest of Aussie independent black and white artists.
Oh, wow.
Of the day. Like, look at that stuff.
Holy.
I think there's some let's see if there's a
that looks like 2000 AD.
It's Frank Wessing and David Coe do that.
That's
I think
incredible.
that's crazy.
That is very, very 90s though.
Mm.
Like the muscles, the detail, the shading, and all that sort of thing. Like you're looking at it, and it's like, all right, I can see Mark Silvestri, I can see Jim Lee, I can see Frank Miller's Sin City.
This looks very familiar too. I can't find a credit, but it's very 90s. Like he's got the rockabilly quiff thing going on. And this is the first issue. Oh, it's got the same story in it. Oh, because that's a 0 issue. So that's the 0 issue. That's the first one. But this was great for me, especially as a teenager, like trying to figure out how do you make comics, and having stuff at the newsagents that was made by people in Australia. It's very inspiring, so super helpful. Which is, I think, for the young people seeing our comic books, it's like, oh well, yeah, people in Australia are making comic books, that I can do it too.
Mm.
So that was my recommended read. Probably hard to get, but it was an informative big part of my comic book DNA. It was the old Scunge, the NYPD serial killer on the edge of the law. So he's a serial killer, but he's also a cop. It's like Dexter. Before
maybe
Dexter.
No,
So,
I like it.
yeah, Shannon, have you got a book to recommend?
I
from your
do.
past?
All right, you guys. I don't know if you guys realize this, but this week just gone was the 35th anniversary of the Michael Keaton Batman film from 1989. That movie was like major for me because that's what
Same.
made me this lifelong love of superheroes and got me into reading comics and and eventually inspired me to like draw my own and that sort of thing. And a little while ago they did this series here, Batman 89, which is essentially Batman 3. And
cool.
They did two stories at the time. They did Superman 76, which is based on the first Christopher Reeve movie. And they did this, Batman 89. I liked Batman 89 a lot more than Superman 76. I thought these were great. I'll show up a page here. Now, this story is the origin and story of that Batman 89's version of Two-Face.
It's Billy D.
What's that?
It's Billy D.
Billy D, yeah. For those who don't know, like Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in the original Batman movie with the intent that he was going to play Two-Face later on. And as everybody knows, he was replaced with Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Was this actually the one that was kind of based on Tim Burton's original script before they decided to get Joel Schumacher instead, or is it just
It's a whole new story.
Whole new story, like done by comic creator.
Like it was Sam Hamm, who I think was one of the writers and creators on the original Batman movie. He was the writer. You got a great guy named Joe Quinn. I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm sorry. Quinones is the artist and the cover artist.
What's it? Jason Quinones.
What's that?
Is that Jason Quinones? The
Joe.
I'm friends with a cartoonist on Facebook who's, I think he's a Jason Quinones, so it might be a different guy.
Yeah. I follow this guy on Instagram. His art is amazing. Like it captures the look and feel of the films perfectly. Bruce Wayne looks exactly like Michael Keaton. Batman looks exactly the way he did in the film, and the way he's lit and like movement and stuff like that. This also introduces that version of Robin, which you can see just there. Because once again, I don't know if you guys know, Robin was meant to be in the original film. He was going to be played by one of the Wayans brothers.
That's right. Yeah.
To such a degree that, his name is in the credits still, and B, they had to pay him, and he got royalties from it. So he has been making money from that movie ever since 1989. It's probably the most money he makes from any of his projects. And he was never even in the damn film. They cut him out at the last minute. It's probably one of my favorite Robin costumes as well. Let me see if I can find a decent image of it.
My favorite's the Tim Drake with the 90s.
This one there, hang on.
I think was Neil Adams.
I do like that when they redesigned it, but there's been so many redesigns of Robin over the years.
That's what they use in all the cartoons and stuff. They use that for the Dick Grayson Robin now.
Yeah. I did not like what they did with the Catwoman costume. They sort of cut holes in the butt and the shoulders and stuff. So,
well, in the second movie,
from the series, like in the comics.
Oh.
So, you know, they're great. Hang on, I'll just see if you can get that right up next to the camera. There's Robin there.
Oh yeah.
But I really like that suit. I love that translation of the mask where it's basically like, you know, a pandemic mask covering his face. I like the hood. There's just something like very traditional but very updated to that design. So yeah, I bought this hardcover as soon as it was available. They're doing another series at the moment, which is basically you know, would have been Batman 4. That one has the Scarecrow in it. The Scarecrow was played by Jeff Goldblum, which was like back in the day when they were doing fan casting stuff like that. There was talk about having Jeff Goldblum play the Scarecrow, so that's perfect. If you're a fan of that film or that film series, or just like a good Batman read, I highly recommend picking up Batman 89. I mean, like, the last thing DC needs is more money, but, you know, do it for yourself.
The thing that we need most is good comics. So
yeah,
that's a good one. All right, Sean, have you got a comic book from your past that you'd like to recommend for everyone to read?
I would say just because I've actually been getting into the June War and stuff after seeing the movies, but we're not going to be talking about the movies. But I've actually been rereading this one, Gunslinger Girl. Like, I bought this ages ago, and I'm not sure if it's still in print or not. Probably in America, but not here in Australia. But yeah, it's pretty much like espionage, I would say. Like, I know it sounds like a silly title and all that, and they'll probably be saying, "Oh, is it friggin' a bit perverted or something?" And I'm just like, no, it's actually a lot more serious and darker than what you think it is. Because what it is about these, you know, there's these girls from Italy, like all of a sudden they get they're either on the brink of death or something, like something really bad happens to them.
Yeah. Then
the government agency will pick them up and bring them back to life, giving them a second chance, but, you know, it like adds like cybernetics to them and stuff, and does some reconditioning, and they end up learning, like, becoming soldiers, and they got their handlers as well. So they're pretty much going around like taking out terrorists from far left and far right organizations around Italy and around the Europe, but it's pretty much focused on Italy. And because, like, there's a lot of places like they mention in Italy and all that, so there would have been a fair bit of study like about that country and culture, because there's a fair bit of notes at the back of each trade about certain Italy phrases and you know, just like how the country is like in it and stuff like that. So yeah, it actually does get pretty brutal. Like, but I wouldn't say that, like, it's not like fully like action packed. There's more drama with it. It's like a third of it's probably like, or probably just over a quarter more as the action, but a lot more is about going through the handlers and the girls, like with their lives and that, and trying to deal, like, being a part of a counter-terrorist team in that, and definitely one keeps going on about her memories like that. Some of them just keep coming back, and she's wasn't I somebody else before? Then they're like, oh, try not to think about it. And they're like, oh, we have to recondition this, you know, pump with drugs a bit more, like. So Yeah, like it's a bit like there, like a bit of spy work there as well. So like, no, nothing like a Spy X Family. Like it's actually more got a more dark and gritty feel going through it, and a bit of it like questioning like past lives and some of their actions.
Mhm.
Is that a
Especially like
Japanese comic?
yeah, it's a manga. Especially like some handlers, like you get to see one of them like pretty worse. They treat one of the girls like he just hits them and just like he treats her like shit, but then much later on, like she ends up saving her from a bomb. And she just cops it really bad, and then he just has to go to hospital, and he's just like, oh, geez, what I've been doing, just like he just feels like the worst human beings. Like I kept treating her like crap, and then she saves me. It's just like, what does that make me? I'm a terrible person. You know, just kind of like stuff like that. That's one of the little side stories.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm up to 11 and 12. There's 15 volumes all up. Like each, it comes in omnibuses now. So like the first one's like 1 to 3, 4 to 6. Then it's like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And yeah, this is kind of the one like I get to read on the way to the bus to and back from work. Instead of like everybody else like on their phones scrolling through like friggin' whatever bloody garbage social media it is.
I got to admit, that's like something I really miss about the commute to work, because there wasn't really much else about the commute to work, but it was great reading time. You know, the amount of novels and comics and like everything else that I got to read through, because I had this hour-long trip on the train every single day on the way to work, was fantastic. And I don't really get that much anymore. Like I don't remember the last time I really had a chance to sit down and read a novel. It was during the pandemic. I remember rereading Stephen King's Christine, the one about the car.
Yeah.
And not only did I enjoy the book, I just enjoyed reading a book.
Yeah, I read novels too, here and there. Like, I suppose the last novel I actually read was The Great and Secret Show by Clive Barker.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I finally read that after all that time. But that would so much make a great movie. I seriously wish they'd make a movie of that. I can't really talk about it because if I get started, then it's that story that has that number of twists and turns, and there's something completely else right at the end. It's that kind of story.
Yeah, I haven't read a lot of Clive stuff. It's very
It's got so many good books, but you know, they just keep referring to like they just keep doing the Hellraiser. That's his most famous book, and Hellraiser is great. And that, or you know, like some reason Candyman, like Candyman's crap.
I like the Candyman book. I was surprised when I was reading it.
Story, but they had to make a big long movie about it. But no, like he's got like other books out there, like Weave World and Aberrat, but Aberrat's not finished. Like there's 3 volumes. He's supposed to be working on a 4th one. But you know, like the guy's got such a vivid, like way out there imagination, and it's just like there's stuff out there. Like I just find that are actually better than his most famous one, Hellraiser. And it's just like they should make some more movies like based on his books, like you know, like The Great and Secret Show or Weave World or what's that other one, Galilee. Like he just has he's a very underrated novel writer. He's done comics as well, and he's actually like playing video games as well. Like, and he does paintings too. Like he's got his in a couple of creative stuffs as well, but he's mainly a writer. And he's actually probably my favorite novelist.
So I read the Books of Blood in my 20s, and there was a
there's some insane stories in that.
There was the one that stuck with me was the Cold War, like East Berlin story, and it turns out everyone's werewolves. Spoilers.
I went through a massive horror reading phase in my 20s. Like read everything by Stephen King and Richard Lehman and Dean Koontz. And I was going through Clive Barker. I could never track down a copy of the Books of Blood. They just weren't available that time. They're probably like very easily available now, but then when I just had to go to the local Dimmicks or something like that, remember them? That you had to go with what they had, either what they had on shelf or what they could order in, and the Books of Blood were just not available. Although it was fun asking for that at the counter. Walk up, here's I am, this skinny little, not really little, skinny tall teen. Walk up and it's just like, do you have the Books of Blood? And just have the girl behind the counter, his eyes get very wide as she looks at you.
I found it at a secondhand store.
Not that massive one in Sydney. Oh, you were in Melbourne. Sorry, I take it back.
Yeah, it was a little one on Swan Street in Richmond.
Yeah, kind of also funny, just like how I didn't see any Dune books for a long time until those movies finally came out. And I will admit, I actually love those movies because
I haven't seen the second one yet.
Star Wars now is pretty much just a punching bag for the internet. So I've just gone I just had to walk away from Star Wars, but now I've discovered Dune thanks to the movies, and I want to read the books. And I've been going through the lore for that too, and it's so surprisingly that it surprises me. Like when you go through the lore and you look at those movies, it's like it's very similar to Star Wars, but it's still different. But it's also that the first Dune book came out in 1965, like 12 years before the first Star Wars. And then, as a matter of fact, there was 3 Dune books that came out then the first Star Wars. So Dune's a lot more mature and more evolved. And
for me, Dune was so paranoid that I couldn't. I read the first one, and then started reading the second one, and I couldn't handle it. It was too the intrigue. Everyone's just trying to kill each other, and they got little robots that it's not a guy with a knife you have to be scared of. It's like a little bug that's got a poison needle on it that's going to come and stick you in the throat. It was too much to handle.
No,
me at the time.
The spice that's in it, the spice actually does mutate certain people's, the navigators. They'll look like a fish. They swim in tanks in the ships, and then they actually do mention about people that it has different effects. There's actually people that what would you call it? They turn into animals, but they're still human. Or they're anamorphic type of people. They end up rocking up. There are cyborgs as well, but there's no AI. The AI got all destroyed and got banned. So there's no computers, but it's made the people, the human race, forced to actually evolve. So you get these people as well, who are actually very smart, and they're like human computers themselves. So yeah, and especially the story, it has that similar Darth Vader, the boy that's supposed to be the savior, but he turns out to be the tyrant, which is pretty much the same as Paul Atreides. And then his kids, they ended up turning into worse tyrants than him.
Yeah, I know they're making a 3rd film, and it's based on
the second one,
different one of the books.
Yeah, the Emperor of Dune.
That's the one. And that's kind of the one I'm looking forward to.
I'll have to probably split that into 2 movies as well.
Yeah.
That David Lynch's 1984 Dune, it's just I just admit, like, I saw it on TV, and
I saw it at the
look,
cinemas.
I'll give some sympathy for David Lynch. He was given a very impossible task because there was no way you can actually pull off a proper Dune movie in just 2 hours. No way.
Yeah, I was 6 and my dad wanted to see it, so he's like, "Oh, just come in and watch it." I just remember Sting with his metal undies. It's like, "Mom, there's a guy with metal undies." It's like, "What have you been doing?"
I saw that for the first time maybe only about 10 years ago. My girlfriend and I, we sat and watched it, and like it was such a trip. It's just like, what are we watching? And you could tell every single story moment in it felt like you were missing an entire chapter before and after it.
Yeah, I don't know why also like Patrick Stewart and the army had to carry their pugs in the battle as well. That was just strange as well.
Yeah, well, it was David Lynch. I mean, you weren't going to get a straight, beginning, middle, and end film out of him, no matter what he was.
That's probably his most commercials film. Especially as if you had to throw in some of that body horror and stuff in there as well.
Yeah,
when they were on the Harlequin planet.
Those guys were gross.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like the 4K transfer or the digital transfer, they clean the film right up, and it doesn't do it any favors. Especially
a lot of those old movies where they clean it up and it doesn't really work. Like it's better when it's blurry because otherwise, you actually see the special effects more clearer. Like
Lynch makes his movies for what it's going to be played on. It's like when they recolor old comic books and do it in the native color, like the 4-color process on bright white paper, and it looks like garbage because it's supposed to be on the newsprint that's a bit yellow and it sucks up the ink.
Yeah.
And they made the comics because they knew what it was going to be printed on, so they made them to look like what it was going to be, what the finished product was going to be.
Yeah, they could take all these shortcuts because they knew it wasn't going to show up because of the printing technology.
Yeah,
and they knew the colors were going to change because the paper's a bit yellow and it's going to suck in the ink. And then when you do the exact colors onto bright white paper, everything's just like
ridiculously vibrant.
Yeah, like remastering comics is kind of can be a hit or miss. So like I do have the latest version of Hard Boiled where it got recolored, and they still actually did a pretty good job. I would say like there are some areas which actually do look better, but then there's some areas where I'm kind of like, the original was better. It's a bit of a hit and miss, that one.
Although one thing that technology allows them to do now, which I'm appreciative of, is that they do those full-sized reproductions of certain stories, but it's the original art, and it's not like you see all the pencil lines, you see the ink lines, you see the different shades of ink and stuff like that. You see where they put notes around the outside.
I get the artist editions.
That's the ones, yeah.
They take the photos of the pages and then print them at the size they were drawn at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Fantastic. I've never been able to afford to get one just yet, but I've gone through like a bunch of different ones in stores and stuff, and they're amazing. Just it makes you feel better about your own work as well, because
that's exactly it.
Yeah, like the only way you've ever seen comic art is the reproduced stuff, and it's flawlessly black and all the lines are perfect, and it makes you feel like, oh God, I can never do this sort of work. And then you see the artist edition and you see that they've made mistakes. You see that they've whited stuff out. You see that this didn't really work and they've had to edit it and that sort of thing. So it's like,
and paste ups.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
just whole panels where they've just redrawn it and stuck it down.
Stuck it over the top of, yeah. So it's like it knocks the artist off the pedestal just enough that it makes you feel more confident that you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to get things wrong. You're allowed to have panels and anatomy and stuff like that didn't work quite well at the time. But you can learn from it.
And seeing, like, I've got a Walt Simonson Thor one, and just seeing how much whiteout he uses in the just to fix his mistakes, but also to do the energy effects and stuff.
Yeah,
just wiggle a whiteout pen through it, and it makes those cool effects where when you don't know, you're drawing up to it and coloring it in up to the negative space where he's just drawing through and then cutting through it with the white to you do that reduction.
Yeah,
it's all cool. Yeah, I really like those as well.
Yeah, so when I'm making enough money again, I might splurge on one. I don't know which one, but I'd really like to own one of those because I think they're magical. I love seeing the actual art. Considering they were done much larger, so when they were shrunk down, the mistakes would disappear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's why you normally draw 2 times bigger. So it reduces down and makes all the detail look a lot crisper.
Yeah. It hides the fact that you don't have a perfectly still hand. You shake a little bit as you're tracing stuff and that sort of thing. It's a fun job, isn't it? Being an artist, it's a fun way to live.
Yep.
Well, on that note, I think we might call this episode here.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
And we'll thank Shannon and Sean for coming on and talking about comic books.
Thank you for letting us come on.
Yeah, thanks for getting us back in, Ed.
And thanks to everyone who's watching and everyone who dropped a comment. And I think that's going to do us for tonight. So we'll say bye-bye to everyone. Bye.
Good.